Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The U.S. Federal Reserve has cut interest rates by 0.25 percentage point, which is in line with market expectations. Major banks in Hong Kong followed by delivering a 0.25 point rate cut today.
As you know, many things affect the economy. Here, we don't know what the timing and substance of any policy changes will be. We don't guess, we don't speculate, and we don't assume.
It is the second rate cut this year, and the decrease this time is smaller than the 0.5 percentage point drop in September. The Fed's post-meeting statement said the U.S. unemployment rate remains low but has risen. Inflation is also dipping to the target level of 2%. Regarding Trump's victory in the election, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said in the short term, the election results will not affect the Fed's decision-making. He said the Fed might slow down the pace of interest rate cuts in the future. Locally, HSBC, Hang Seng Bank, and Bank of China cut their prime rate by 25 basis points to 5.375%. The same rate cut for Standard Chartered Bank and Bank of East Asia, which dips to 5.625%. The new best lending rates will take effect on Monday. In lockstep with the U.S. rate cut, a number of major banks in Hong Kong reduced their best lending rates by 25 basis points. The move is expected to ease mortgage burdens for borrowers. Following the Federal Reserve's rate cut overnight, a number of major banks in Hong Kong announced trims to their best lending rates by 25 basis points. Over these 2 months, Hong Kong's major banks have slashed their prime rates by a total of 50 basis points. How much money can mortgage borrowers save? If you bought a residential property at $6 million on a 90% loan-to-value mortgage over 25 years, the real interest rate was reduced to 3.875% last time, with the prime rate lowered by 25 basis points. That means borrowers can pay about $700 less every month. With today's further reduction of the best lending rate to 3.625%, another $700 of interest payment can be avoided, so the monthly repayment tapers to about $27,000. Will the rate cut buoy the public's home buying sentiment? Mr. Wong here said the rates are not appealing at all because he's not optimistic about Hong Kong's economy and property market. This man said he will bide his time as he's expecting housing prices to decline further. Some real estate agents said after the previous interest rate cut, the transaction volume of newly built apartments has tripled, but there has been no marked rebound after the government's scrapping of property cooling measures, including stamp duties. Centerline Property Agency Executive Director Louis Chan said favorable policies over the next 2 months could lift property prices by 3 to 5%. When asked if the momentum will extend to 2025, Chan said it hinges on the next rate decision. But as the Trump administration would likely introduce policies that could stimulate the return of inflation in the United States, that might prompt authorities to raise interest rates, hence ending the rate cut cycle, Chan said. Beijing has unveiled its latest economic stimulus measures. Local governments will be allowed to issue an additional 6 trillion yuan in bonds to swap for off-balance sheet or hidden debt over 3 years. That marks a crucial step in lowering systemic risks in the economy. The debt relief measure was approved by the National People's Congress Standing Committee. Together with other measures, hidden debts of local governments are expected to decrease from 14.3 trillion yuan to 2.3 trillion yuan. Director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Xia Baolong chaired a symposium related to Hong Kong's development in Shenzhen today, which was attended by business leaders. Xia noted the importance of Hong Kong's business community in supporting the SAR's governance. The symposium was held this morning at Wuzhou Guest House in Shenzhen. Among those in attendance were Chief Executive John Lee, Chief Secretary for Administration Chan Kwok-Kee, and Financial Secretary Paul Chan. Members of Hong Kong's business community were also invited to attend, including Anthony Leung, Chairman of Nanfeng Group, Chairman of the Trade Development Council Peter Lam, and CEO of New World Development Eric Ma. It's understood Xia's speech revolved around the spirit of the third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China over the opening up and support for Hong Kong's high-quality development. Xia also noted that the city's business community is a main driving force in Hong Kong's economic development, and they should have a deep understanding of their responsibilities. Xia said business leaders should actively support the SAR government and the chief executive in governing in accordance with the law. The MTR began strengthening its campaign on promoting escalator safety today. This after the public transport provider recorded some 430 escalator-related accidents in its stations over the first 9 months of this year. The company also reduced the speed of about 200 of its escalators at the start of this year. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Please stand clear of the step edge when traveling on escalators.
The busy pace of Hong Kongers is well known across the world, and walking on escalators has become an everyday scene. However, many in a hurry often forget to ensure their safety when traveling on them. This as the MTR recorded some 430 escalator-related accidents in the first 9 months of this year. 60% of them involved passengers not grasping the handrail, losing their balance, or being bumped into when boarding the escalator. Some of the most serious cases required hospitalization. As part of its campaign to promote escalator safety, the MTR launched new videos and posters today to remind passengers of safety standards. The company also lowered the speed of 200 escalators at the start of this year.
In fact, MTR has about 1,300 escalators operating in our system, and we have been promoting, reminding our passengers on the safe use of the escalator. We start the campaign this year with new video promotions that launched just today, and we also have new station public announcement broadcast, and we also have new poster designed to post on each escalator landing.
Some passengers share their thoughts about how safe the MTR's escalators are.
Oh no, I think it's safe. Yeah, it's safe. Yeah, as compared to our country. But as compared to London, I think it's a little bit fast.
The escalators are really not too fast. You can have a nice conversation while on them and stuff. It can be bad if it's rush hour and stuff. Sometimes you gotta apologize for pushing and stuff. But I think that's just part of the culture here.
Meanwhile, the MTR recently installed cameras and LED lights on its escalators that can detect objects left on its steps and alert staff members to remove the items. In a bid to strengthen its promotion of escalator safety, MTR staff members wearing red vests will remind passengers to board escalators properly and to use the lift when carrying bulky items throughout the month. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Observatory has issued the standby signal number 1 for severe Typhoon Yining. Yining, which was brewed in the east of the Philippines, has edged closer to the coast of southern China. The typhoon was estimated to be centered about 550 kilometers southeast of Hong Kong as of 6 p.m. today and may affect the city in the coming days. The standby signal number 1 will remain in force at least until tomorrow noon. The Foreign Ministry in Beijing said President Xi Jinping is headed to Peru and Brazil next week for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation and G20 summits. Peru holds the chairmanship of APEC for the 3rd time this year. President Xi is also expected to attend the APEC Economic Leaders meeting in Lima, Peru. He will then pay a state visit to Peru from November 13th to 17th. After that, the Chinese leader will participate in the 19th G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro and visit Brazil from November 17th to 21st. Welcome back. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has made his first major appointment since winning Tuesday's presidential election. Republican Trump, who returns to office on January 20th, has appointed Susie Wiles as White House Chief of Staff. Wiles has been a key figure in Trump's presidential campaign, helping him to score a significant victory over Democratic rival Kamala Harris. Nasbi Karim with more.
During Donald Trump's victory speech on Tuesday, the world was introduced to this woman. Susie Wiles played a key role in Trump's successful 2024 presidential campaign, helping him to a convincing victory over Democrat Kamala Harris. Preferring to stay in the background, the 67-year-old even declined to speak at Trump's West Palm Beach, Florida campaign headquarters. But she has now been thrust into the spotlight as Trump's White House Chief of Staff when he returns to the Oval Office on January 20th. Wiles is widely credited with what is regarded as a disciplined and well-executed campaign, one of the few people able to keep Trump's impulses in check. During his first 4 years as president, Trump went through 4 chiefs of staff, one of whom was in an acting capacity. His aides hope that Wild's appointment will help to build a more cohesive team this time. Meanwhile, outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden said he will ensure a smooth transition for the next administration.
Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory, and I assured him that I would direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran.
Americans will now wait to see how Trump fulfills his campaign promises, such as immigration and fixing the economy. In the lead-up to the election, Trump said that on day one of taking office, he would begin the process of deporting millions of people.
He hasn't given a lot of details necessarily about what it would actually look like to use, in his words, the U.S. military, potentially National Guard from U.S. states, even domestic police forces at the municipal level. So it remains to be
Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
But it's an anchor prompt.
President Vladimir Putin has congratulated Donald Trump on his election victory in the Russian leader's first public comment on the outcome of the U.S. vote. Putin was speaking at an international forum in the Black Sea resort of Sochi. Putin congratulated Trump on his election as President of the United States of America. Trump has said the war with Ukraine would never have happened if he had been in the White House. Leaders from nearly 50 European nations and international organizations gathered in Hungary for the 5th European Political Community Summit. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said the leaders have agreed on the need for Europe to assume greater responsibility for its own security rather than relying solely on the United States. Tracy Furness reports.
European leaders meeting for the one-day summit in Budapest were assessing a new global outlook in the wake of the election of Donald Trump as the next US president, an event that could have far-reaching consequences for the continent.
Mindannyian érzékeltük, hogy nincs idő.
Summit host Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said there was no time to waste. He said history seems to have accelerated. The American elections closed a chapter. The world will change faster than we think. There are big, huge questions on the table: war or peace, migration or protection, splitting into blocs or connectivity, subordination or European sovereignty. He added that chance of a ceasefire in Ukraine after the US election grew enormously. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the summit. Starmer said British support for Ukraine was unwavering.
As you know, our support for Ukraine is unwavering. I strongly believe that not only should it be unwavering, but we need to step up this through. It's very important that we stand with you. So I'm very much welcoming the opportunity to continue our discussion again today.
Starmer also said he is determined to target gangs involved with smuggling people across the English Channel in small boats. This as 31,000 migrants have made the perilous crossing so far this year.
How do we take down the gangs that are running this vile trade of smuggling people across borders? In particular for us, the concern about those that are crossing the Channel. I'm determined we're going to smash those gangs.
Meanwhile, Starmer made a commitment to bringing British defence spending to 2.5% of the national income, saying there's nothing more important than the safety of our country. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A number of countries have proposed to build a cross-border payment system during this year's BRICS summit in a bid to reduce reliance on the global financial system dominated by the US dollar. Some analysts argue that the Chinese yuan would be an appropriate settlement currency if the new system is established. Danny Zhou has more.
Since the start of its war with Ukraine, Russia has been sanctioned by Western nations, and its banks were cut off from SWIFT, the main international financial payment system. This has obstructed normal trade and transactions. Even MasterCard and Visa credit cards cannot be used in Russia. Wang Jiaolei, a Chinese overseas student in Russia, grumbled about the inconvenience, saying she could only use cash or bank cards here. Moscow has been trying to find a solution to the problem. During the recently held BRICS summit in Kazan, reducing reliance on the US dollar was an important issue under discussion. Many countries were supportive of establishing a new cross-border payment system that bypasses SWIFT, and the possible move resonates with the local Chinese business community. Mr. Zhong, president of a Chinese association in Kazan, said it is increasingly difficult for him to exchange foreign currency, and it now takes 2 months to transfer money overseas. But what currency should be used for the new payment system? Chen Xingxing, director of the research division of the Chinese Institute of Hong Kong, pointed out that the Chinese yuan is widely used. It is liquid, credible, and has a relatively stable value. He said these advantages could underpin the Chinese yuan status as a potential settlement currency. Chen further noted the establishment of this system doesn't mean a breakaway from the prevalent global payment system, nor is it a complete substitute. People may still choose between different payment systems. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Zhuhai City is gearing up for the 15th China International Aviation and Aerospace Exhibition, scheduled to be held from November 12th to 17th. Danny Zhou again.
China's new J-35A stealth fighter jets streaked across the clear blue sky in the coastal city of Zhuhai this morning. This was their first adaptive training for the upcoming Zhuhai Air Show. Meanwhile, 4 J-20 fighters soared in intricate formation, exhibiting impressive skills and teamwork. The pilots have choreographed new maneuvers for aerobatic performances during the air show. This year's exhibition is poised to be the largest ever with 13 halls. It has attracted around 800 exhibitors from China and abroad. A dedicated area for unmanned systems will be set up for the first time to showcase unmanned surface vessels and aerial vehicles. The People's Liberation Army Air Force, which is celebrating its 75th anniversary, will display some of China's latest military advancements. The Q-19 surface-to-air missile weapon system is expected to make its first public debut. Russia has also sent the Sukhoi Su-57 fighter to the show. It completed its first adaptive training in Zhuhai yesterday, marking the first time a foreign stealth aircraft has landed in China. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.